Turning now to a devastating case of child abuse in Florida that's really raising questions about and concerns about the child welfare system. The state's attorney's office has filed paperwork to seek the death penalty against a woman, a mother, accused of stomping her 7-year-old daughter to death. Naikishia Williams is charged with first-degree murder and aggravated abuse in the death of her 7-year-old daughter, Nia Williams. Now, Nia died in April after being brought to the hospital with multiple injuries, including severe blunt force trauma, a lacerated liver, and internal bleeding. Her mother claimed that the child had an adverse reaction to medication, but toxicology tests refuted those claims, and Nia's death was ruled a homicide. Scripps affiliate WPTV reporter Kayla McDermott has more on the story.
In her first death penalty filing since becoming state attorney, Alexia Cox outlines in these documents why she believes Naikishia Williams should receive capital punishment if found guilty.
For nearly 45 days, Naikishia Williams has been sitting in a Palm Beach County jail cell for allegedly beating 7-year-old Nia Williams so badly detectives say she killed her. Now, the state attorney's office has filed a motion for Williams to be put to death.
How much could you have done her to make the state want to kill you?
Nia's loved ones, Rebecca Finley and Whitney Walker,
But I can't breathe, I can't eat.
tell me every day without Nia is a battle.
So we don't let this light go out. It says, the moment your heart stops, mine changed forever.
To them, death is what Williams deserves.
Oh, it's fit perfect for her. Eye for an eye.
In state attorney Alexia Cox's first death penalty motion, she cites these 5 reasons for the push. Aggravated child abuse, the crime is especially heinous, committed in a cold, calculated manner, the victim is less than 12 years old, and the victim was particularly vulnerable, as the defendant is a family member.
There's more reasons. They're just not listed.
I sat down with John Walsh, the supervising attorney in the fostering division of the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County.
In this case, it's a tragedy.
It's also personal, as he represented Nia as an infant and now represents Nia's surviving siblings.
Every child you lose haunts you in this field.
He believes the state could have prevented Nia's death.
In this case, the state filed to terminate her parental rights at one point. Why did they change course? Well, we need to look at the forest and ask ourselves, what could we have done that would have made her safer?
But for Finley, if she could speak with Williams, she would say,
You deserve everything that is coming to you.
in Palm Beach County,
Always justice for you.
I'm Kayla McDermott.
What a tragedy. Let's welcome in our guests to discuss these tragic cases. We still have criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. We also have author of How Massachusetts Put Harmony Montgomery in the Hands of a Monster, retired juvenile court judge Carol Erskine joins us as well. Great to join us. Thank you so much for joining us, Judge. I truly appreciate it. And of course, Marie. Judge, I want to start with you because, again, we've heard the question asked a couple of times, you know, how could this have happened? It's clear somebody failed somewhere along the way. And there are many, many parallels to the Harmony Montgomery case. First and foremost, I want to get your thoughts on this case and how could we have possibly ended up here under the circumstances?
Well, thanks for having me on. I think there are a lot of reasons that we ended up here, and some of those reasons have to do with the changes that have occurred in so many states in the United States. In other words, many states have actually changed the threshold standard for the reporting of abuse, and so thousands and thousands of reports of abuse every day are just never even investigated by the department. I think people generally have the belief that when you call in a child abuse report that someone's going to investigate it. But that just doesn't happen in every case. And so the changes in those standards are part of the problem because so many of these reports involving this beautiful little girl just were not investigated. And then the other issue is, and maybe it's cynical to say it, but the states have a mandate to reunify. And unfortunately, just like Harmony's case, the states prefer to reunify, but they do it even when the safety of the child is at risk. And that's just one of the things that has to change. We have to start prioritizing the best interest and safety of children. and at least giving an equal footing to parents. But the fact of the matter is under the law, that's just not the case.
Well, let me check on that, because one of the things that you said that I think is still generally true in juvenile court, it's generally the overriding principle is the best interest of the child. And I think where the issue comes is in this unification part, where I think the presumption is still that the child is always best with the family. Is that what you mean? Is that where the problem comes in? Because here, clearly, there were people who cared for this girl. She had a caregiver, right? And the caregivers went to the child welfare folks and told them, look, there's a problem here. This child is coming to us with all kinds of injuries. We will take care of the child. And yet and still, they put this child in the home of the mother. Now, I will tell you this. At one point, it seems the mother did take a parenting course as part of an order by the court, which allowed her to get her child back. So they're trying to do things here. But is that presumption that the mother or the parents are the best options for these children, is that part of the problem here?
Yes, I think it has become part of the problem, because what has happened is that the rights of children have been subrogated to the rights of the parents. And of course, the Supreme Court has made clear that there has to be clear and convincing evidence of unfitness in order to terminate parental rights. But in a case like this, where there were ongoing problems and so many problems, you have to ask yourself, was just doing a parenting class enough to reunify that child? That's one of the concerns. And yes, parents' rights are extremely important, and we should reunify, and I reunified thousands of cases when it was appropriate. But sometimes it's just not appropriate. And yet states push for reunification and to the exclusion of the best interest of the child. And that's why you see this children like this one dying, like Harmony dying, like the little girl, Rebecca in Arizona. This is what you're seeing. This is a new trend in the United States to subrogate the rights of children to the rights of parents.
Yeah, Naikishia Williams had a documented drug problem as well, so that would have to have been taken into account. Marie, let me get you into the conversation here. The DA there is seeking the death penalty for a mother in the death of her own child. According to the other children, there are 3 siblings that Nia had, older siblings. They all said she was sort of the target child, which we see often in these cases, and that her mother stomped her in the stomach, and this is what caused these injuries that led to her death. They have a number of aggravating factors. What do you make of this? A mother possibly facing the death penalty because of the murder of her own child.
She absolutely deserves the death penalty. And I agree 100% with everything Judge Erskine said, because nowadays they're thinking that it's in the best interest of the child to keep the child somewhere where it's familiarity with the mom or the dad or whoever it is. But nowadays, we know that it's not stranger danger that children have to be worried about with all of these cases, with your Lori Daybells and everyone else who's murdering their children. There are too many, I can't even recall them, but it's infuriating to think that to protect the rights of the parents is in the best interest of the children. It's not always like that. Sometimes you just have to take the kids away from these people, because at the end of the day, this woman, she kicked the little girl to death. She kicked her in the abdomen and damage her organs, and she caused the death of this person. This little person who trusted her, all of the aggravating factors are there. Position of trust, unprovoked, lying about it after the fact. It is so disgusting, I could barely contain myself. But I agree with my esteemed co-panelists 100%. We need to revisit this and protect the children. It's not always okay to just say that's her mama, that's where she belongs. Because look what happened to Harmony, look what happened to her. It's just like, wow, what is in the best interest of the children? Take them away, especially in this case. They had a precursor. They knew she was not a safe person. So it's not something that happened just out of the air. We knew she had abused the child before. What does it take? This? It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. She missed 50 days of school. The school noticed that she was dirty all the time. In 2021, she had a fracture of the right femur. Again, the biggest, strongest bone in our body. Laceration in the back of the head in 2022. So there were certainly signs here. But Judge Erskine, I want to ask you about how things get complicated when there are other siblings. So she had 3 older siblings. They also suffered abuse, but they all said the one who got the worst was Nia. Nia was actually left at the hospital when she was born. This woman from the beginning had an issue with this child. We often see this. Speak to that aspect of this, that sometimes there's one child who has the most problems. There are siblings, so when you talk about reunification, the fact that there's siblings also kind of complicates things, no?
Yes, it does complicate things, but case law makes clear that you have to look at each individual child. And when you have one child who's the target and you know you have a parent who's abusive like this, you have to assume the other children are at risk. Whether or not those children are the targets isn't the issue. The issue is you have a woman who clearly is dangerous around her own children. As you said, you have a history of one child having a broken femur. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of cases where one child was abused and the other child may not have, the other children in the home may not have been as abused. But in those circumstances, and considering the totality of the circumstances, yes, I would remove the other children. I had cases where there was a death of a child, one child who was the target, and then the department seeks to remove the other children. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances and what you're dealing with. And in this case, you're dealing with just an unconscionable level of abuse. And whether the other siblings were involved with that isn't so much as the issue as looking at the parent. I mean, that was the case with Harmony. I mean, he beat Harmony to death. He tortured her pretty much every day, but he had 2 other children. And yes, they had, a different mother. But the fact of the matter is he targeted her, he tormented her, he tortured her, and then he beat her to death in the backseat of the car. But the other children were unharmed. It's not unusual. Sadly, it's not unusual.
Yeah, and I tell you, both of these cases, literally, reading about this case brought me to tears. All right, Judge Erskine, thank you so much for joining us today and helping us out with this one, because it's just so tough to figure out or even just report on cases like this. Marie, you'll be sticking around.